Now Joseph, a Levite of Cyprian birth, who was also called Barnabas by the apostles, which translated means son of encouragement, and who owned a tract of land, sold it, and brought the money and laid it at the apostles' feet. You know, whenever I meet people here in the Western world, when I introduce myself as Mathew John, the first question I get is, what is your real name, right? They don't believe that Mathew John is my name because I'm from India. They expect my name to be like Santosh or Valson or something like that, right? So sometimes I play, I just play with them, and I'll say, oh, my name is, I'll make up something like Niragandeshwara Paramaswamy Perumal Reddy Naidu or something like that. All the languages you heard today, right? Just to play with them, just to, then they will shut up for a minute. But then they'll come up with another excuse. There's always something about my name. The second thing they ask is, but you have two names, Mathew, John. So what should I call you, Mathew or John, right? Then I say, oh, call me Frank. I always wanted to be a Frank. There are some people who actually call me Frank because they think that, I said, that's kind of my middle name. The reason I'm saying is, the sermon today, I'm going to title my sermon as a question. The question is, what is your real name? Okay? What is your real name? Because this is the question people ask me, then I'm going to ask you that question back. Because the story we read today is very familiar. This is where the primitive form of socialism, perfect socialism, at the time of the beginning of the church. Everybody sold their property and brought to the church, and the church distributed to everybody according to their need. You know the story of Ananias and Sapphira, and who are kind of trying not to give the property. But this particular small couple verse was tucked right before that, almost like an example. It's like there is no thunder, there's no lightning, but there is a guy named Joseph, and he brought he sold his property and brought the money to the disciples. It's interesting that it says that he was a Levite of Cyprian birth. That's very ironic, because if you really study the Old Testament, a Levite is not supposed to have property. A Levite is not, the inheritance of a Levite is God himself. They were never given property, but so he had property. It's almost like black money, theologically speaking, right? Like the money he was not supposed to have. But he gave it, which is great. And then the disciples gave him a nickname. And the nickname is Barnabas, right? You probably know the sentence, the word, that kind of names repeat in the Bible, Bar-Jonah Simon or Bartimaeus. Bar is a kind of a prefix which means the son of, right? Bartimaeus means the son of Timei or Timaeus, or Bartholomew, or Barabbas means the son of Abbas or something like that. Here, his name became Barnabas, basically the son of Nabas. Nabas is a word which represents the teaching or the word, whatever is being taught, exhortation. The Muslims call their prophets Nabi. Nabi is a teacher. Nabi is one who proclaims the word of God. So from there, it's closely connected to Nabal, Nabi, right? So the son of Nabal, which means the son of the word. Essentially what he was demonstrating there is that when the apostles encouraged people to do, apostles taught them to give the property to the church, he obeyed. He did according to the word which was given to him. So that is a good nickname to have, right? If somebody, somebody calls you a good nickname, if I want to call it, I want all of you to call that nickname. I would all of you to be Barnabas. I want all of you to be the sons and daughters of Nabas, teaching. Essentially, which means that just listen to what I'm saying. That's what I want. Listen to the word of God. That's what essentially it means. But I'm not going to stay there. It's a very simple, very short message I wanted to do. But so essentially, my question is, have you ever thought of what would be someone else calling you, right? Like, whether you like it or not, we all have a nickname. Somebody at some point has given you a nickname which is not very, something you would appreciate. And I know, you might be calling me by a nickname, right? And don't pretend to be Holly and all that. You might be saying, you might have a nickname for me behind my back. That's quite natural when you're a teacher, and I can't blame you, because when I was a student, I had given all my teachers nickname. I still remember when we go to schools, middle school and all that, right? Like, we always called our teachers nicknames. Very often by the physical attributes, and I'm embarrassed of this, but we had a physics teacher, we called him Black Bear, because he was a stout, like an old man, like, just like a bear, right? And there was a teacher who was on a maternity leave all the time, and she will come with her little baby in her friend, and then she will be teaching with the baby here, so we called her Kangaroo. And then there was a chemistry teacher, had a long neck, and we called her Giraffe. And so it was fun in the middle school. It's like going to school was like going to a zoo or something like that. It's exciting to go there, right? So, so I can understand that. We all have some kind of nickname. We have been called some nickname by our colleagues, my friends, or maybe people in the church, and that's fine. And as a matter of fact, Jesus himself called people nicknames. Some of them was really mean nicknames. There was an episode where a bunch of scribes and Pharisees came to Jesus and said, "Get away, Herod is trying to kill you," right? And then what Jesus said, and I'll read the exact verse, Luke 13:32, Jesus replied, "Go and tell that fox, behold, and I cast out demons and perform cures today and tomorrow, and the third day I reach my goal." Essentially, he is calling the president of the country a fox. That's not very polite in some sense. So Jesus didn't, and also Jesus called his own disciples, right? James and John were called sons of thunder. And you can probably imagine why, because they were always so quick, like thunder and lightning, right? They were the first to jump into whether we were, who is going to sit on the right side or left side, when we are going to heaven. They were planning and then there is another episode, as you know, Samaritan town. They went to a Samaritan town and they didn't accept them. So the initial reaction is, let's set this city on fire, right? This is what James and John saying. So quite natural that they are called the sons of thunder. So the difference here is, the first kind of nickname I mentioned, the students give to teacher and the teachers give back, now I probably might be getting, but it was all based on physical features, right? Which is not nice. It's not nice to give people nickname based on physical features. But Jesus never did that. Jesus did that based on their character, based on their nature, right? Feature versus nature. So based on nature also, it's funny, we used to have an automobile store back in the days in India. My sister, youngest sister, was the manager of the store, and she is a very witty girl, and she probably the joker in our family. So she always gives people nickname based on the spare parts, right? Based on the character. So when we'll be talking to somebody, sometime with my friends or people in the church, and she'll say something like that, a spark plug has to be pulled off, or the tires are worn out. We have to change the carburetor, or something like that. What actually she means is this: each people, it's a code word for me, because spark plug is a person, or a carburetor is a person based on their nature. and it's still the one I remember the most. There was a nice lady in our church. She was a very nice lady, but she had a habit of, church hopping. You know what that? Going from one church to the other. So she, she called her Viper, W-I-P-E-R. So Viper means, Viper, what Viper does, right? It goes to one side. It's just like the Viper. This dear little sister will go to one church, and she will say all the gossip about the other church, and then she will come back to this church, and then go talk about the gossips of the other church, like a viper. What I meant is, it's based on nature. Sometimes we give nicknames or pet names or whatever you wanted. Again, it's not necessarily a nice thing, but the fact is that the sad reality is that there is a name that people are calling us, and the church is calling you. What would that name be? What is your name? What is the name you would like to be called? Is the church calling you the son or the daughter of Nabas, or the son and the daughter of gossip, or the son and the daughter of slander? Now that is the question. And here the Joseph, who had some black money, when he demonstrated an act of obedience, immediately he got a nice nickname, the son of Nabas, the one who obeys the word, one who does according to the word. Now, why the names are important? And when you read in the Bible, the names of people are very important. And you know this, If you have flipped through the Bible, sometimes the names of people is almost like it determines their destiny. Right? You see some character doing something evil, and then we read their name, the name is also very evil. They do according to the name which is given to them. Sometimes it is almost sad. Some people are named in a very, very bad way. And there is this guy, it's son of Jonathan, David's closest friend, and he wants to do, David, when he assumed the leadership, the kingship, he wanted to do something nice for people in Saul's family, or Jonathan's, the whole family. And then they said, oh, we have a son of Jonathan here, and his name is Mephibosheth. And then Mephibosheth comes in, and he is crippled on both legs. He's a completely disfigured man. And then, David does all the favor to him. But then the name Mephibosheth means something like, there are different meanings, but from the mouth of shame. That's the name this poor guy is carrying. He's already crippled. He's already such a destitute, and he's carrying this name from the mouth of shame. So how mean it is for some parents to name their kids like that. And they almost end up like that. There is another guy, probably one of the worst in the Bible is Ichabod. You can read in the book of Samuel, right? This is the son of Phinehas, who was actually the grandson of priest Eli. So Israel and Philistines had this big war, and in that war, the Ark of the Covenant was taken, and Phinehas was dead. Hearing this, Eli, which is his dad, fell down from the chair and died. And at that time, this lady was pregnant. She gave birth to Phinehas' son, and she was so upset, and she called him Ichabod, which means no glory. No glory. That's the name of how do you live with that kind of a name, right? Here is my uncle Ichabod, right? No glory. Married to Glory Auntie or something like that, so that I can have some glory eventually, right? So why? So the point I'm trying to make is, sometime our parents give us name like this. What a mean parents. Whatever the reason is, you should never name your kids names like that, Ichabod or Mephibosheth or something like that. Whatever frustrated mindset you are, but that becomes their destiny, and that's very sad. That's very sad. Now, we can be like this sometime. Because our name is like that, it becomes part of our internal dialogue. When people call you all the time, no glory, no glory, no glory, and eventually we tend to believe that we don't have any glory. And then we look at the mirror, and I've said this many times, this has become part of my internal dialogue. People, culture, society, even church define certain, criteria, and then they will judge you based on that, and then they will say, you are like this. And then you look at the mirror and they say, yeah, I am like that. Do you know what I'm saying? Sometimes we look at the mirror and we say that I am Ichabod. I am a person from the mouth of shame. I am a person of no glory. And then that name defines your destiny. Now, there are some other characters in the Bible who actually changed their name by changing their destiny. Now, they are the kind of people we should be following. And one person is very, very familiar. Jabez, right? There was a book called the Prayer of Jabez. And it sold millions and millions of copies. And that's when some Christians knew that there was a person called Jabez in the Bible. And there are only 2 verses about him. I'll just read it. I'm not going to preach on this. The Prayer of Jabez was the big publishing record, big hit. This is before Purpose-Driven Life, right? It's a big. So there are 2 verses about him. This is what it says. 1 Chronicles 4, 9 and 10. Jabez was more honorable than his brother, and his mother named him Jabez, saying, because I bore him with pain. So the delivery was painful. So the mother decided to name him Jabez, which really means sorrow or pain. Now poor Jabez lived with that name, pain, sorrow. Here is Mr. Sorrow coming. How bad it is your life will be if you're named like that. But then now Jabez called the God of Israel, saying, oh, that you would bless me indeed and enlarge my border, that your hand might be with me, and that you would keep me from harm, that it may not pain me. And here you can see the pain Jabez is going through himself. That name became his life. That name became his nature. That name became his character. Because everybody called him pain, and then he became pain, and he experienced that pain with everybody else, and he was so ashamed of himself. But then he went to God and asked for a name change. Can you change my destiny? Can you make me someone else? And then the next verse says, and God granted him what he requested. Jabez, with his fervent spirit, resilience, prayer, changed his destiny and changed his name. It doesn't matter what the culture attributes to you, the name, or what others call you. We can always change our destiny by going to God in deep prayer to rediscover who we are really meant to be. There is another person, I don't even have to read. His name is Caleb. Caleb. And did you know there are different variations of that name, but the main meaning of that name is a dog? Now that's the worst. I thought Ichabod was the worst. But you call your son a dog, you better be a hip-hop artist or rap, or you're a Snoop Dogg or something like that. That means something in that particular vocabulary. But nobody in their right mind will call their child dog. That's the name given to Caleb, dog. And who did he become? He actually ended up being a leader of the tribe of Judah, which is the tribe of lion. And as you know, there were 12 spies sent out to look for the land. And who are the 2 people came out with ensuring words? Yeah, Joshua and Caleb. And again, even at this old age, and it's funny, the story ends, and almost towards the end, Joshua and Caleb are, friends, and they've been friends right from the beginning. Everybody else are dead, like as you know. They are the only 2 people who are allowed to step into the promised land. And Joshua said, Caleb, I'll give you this nice territory because we have been in this together. So he got a good inheritance. Then Caleb goes to him and says, I still have the energy to fight. It's an old guy. Can you give me that mountain of Hebron, and that's where all the giants live. And Caleb said, even though I'm old, I don't want the nice Beverly Hills or, Rodeo Drive. No, I want to go to the mountain. I want to fight these giants because I still have that power left in me. I still have that strength left in me. And that is not a dog. That's a lion. Even though his parents called a dog, and he became a lion. And even when he was giving his daughter to somebody, and the dowry he was asking is that, and he said, whoever is going to go and capture a land called Debir, and he is going to get my daughter. So he had that fervency, the strength and the resilience to go after the enemy, and to have that strength even at that time. So that's where you see when people change their name and they change their destiny. And the question today is, what is your name? And what does that mean? And is that the destiny you live in? The thing is, only God knows our true name. See, God called Jacob and said, your name is going to be Israel. Then we suddenly get this impression that God changed his name from Jacob to Israel, which is true, that's what happened. But in reality, he's not just changing the name, he is revealing him his true name. In God's diary, he was always Israel. And Jacob, you are actually Israel. It's the same thing in the New Testament. Jesus looks at Simon and he says, Simon, you are Peter. You're not Simon. That's what the people call you. That's what the other fishermen call you. That's what the parents gave you that name. But in reality, you are not Simon. You are Peter. You are a piece of rock. You are not a dog. You are a lion. And that is when God reveals our true name to us. We've been singing about God's name, and it was kind of ironic that the songs we were singing in the beginning and then the Tere Nam and all that. So we know God's name. God has revealed his name to us. That's why we are here worshiping him. The question is, has he revealed your name to you? Who you really are? What is your real destiny? And that is something we have to find out, because only God knows. There's another song, right? He knows my name. Actually, you should sing it like, only he knows my name. Your parents don't know your name. Your pastor doesn't know your name. Even you don't know your real name. Only he knows your name. And Isaiah, there is this, in Exodus we say, 33:17, I have known you by name, God said to Moses. And then in Isaiah he says, I have called you by your name. This is to the whole Israel. I've known you by name. That name only I know. I called you by that particular name. Very often, when God calls us by name, we don't hear it because we don't know the name. Does that make sense? Very often people come to me, Pastor Mathew, I don't know if God is speaking to me. I can hear God is speaking to them, but I can hear God is speaking to me. I believe God is calling me, but I don't hear it. And sometimes God is calling you by your real name, but you don't know your real name. So, just tell a funny story, kind of funny, I guess, because back in the days when, this is again a middle school story, I vaguely remember this. I was into doing school drama, that was my thing. I was always, we'll write and direct dramas, all little kids. So it's all very Shakespearean kind of drama. So anyway, there was this drama in which it was about Caesar Augustus or something like that. No, it was Julius Caesar, I guess, was the main character. So we did this drama and we made nice costumes like, the Roman costume and soldiers. It's all the dramas will have a lot of fights and soldiers, and because, that time that was the thing. Anyway, I still remember there was this drama we were going to show, and just before, around half an hour before, one of the guys who was supposed to act as a soldier couldn't make it. His dad or mom said, you're not going, you're grounded or something like that. So he couldn't make it. So we badly needed a soldier. So we looked around, and thankfully the soldier has only one line to say in the whole the drama, right? The Caesar will call his name. His name in the drama is actually Marcus Aristobulus. We gave this just high-sounding name to have to make it really resonate like the whole audience, right? So Caesar will call Marcus Aristobulus. So then the soldier has to come and just storm the spear. He will have a spear and all that, full costume, right? Storm by the spear on the floor and say, "Hail Caesar." That's all he needs to do. So it's easy, right? So he said, "Hail Caesar." That's just one line. So I said, yeah, we can find somebody. So there was a guy who's our curtain boy. The drama, we have a curtain, he had to raise. And so he's not really good at anything. So we put him he wanted to hang out with us, so we put him as a curtain boy. That's his job, and he does that very well. His name is Unni, that's what I remember. Unni. So I said, "Unni, can you be the soldier?" He said, "Wow, that's his big break, right? From a curtain boy to the soldier, right?" He said, yeah, I'll do that. So what should I say? All you have to say is, Caesar will call your name, then you have to come and say, "Hail Caesar." That's all you have to say. So Unni said, "I can do that. Hail Caesar, I can do that," right? So we put all the costume on him, and it looked nice. And so Unni, his first career break, his breakout role, and he's just waiting to go into the stage, and see the drama is on the way. It's progressing, and then the time came, I still remember, and Caesar called Marcus Aristobulus. So Unni is standing there. We can all see Unni is just standing there. He's just kind of like this. He's frozen. And then he's not doing anything. Then we are all showing that no, but he's not stepping up, right? Stepping out into the stage. So Caesar looked at him again, because the audience cannot see. Caesar can see him. Marcus Aristobulus, second time. Unni is still just standing there. He's not. I didn't know what to do, and I'm also freezing as the director. I'm behind. I'm trying to get his attention, but Unni is so focused on Caesar. And at the third time, Caesar is now really angry. And now Caesar, "Eda kittunni." It's happened. That's a little derogatory way of calling Unni. People didn't understand. They thought it's some Greek or something like that, right? So suddenly, he came and stomped the spear on the floor and said, "Hail Caesar," in the best possible way. That's when I realized that it was my mistake as the director. I forgot to tell him that his name in the play is Marcus Aristobulus. I told him that Caesar will call you, then you have to do this. So he was waiting for Caesar to call him, and the only name he knew was Unni. But he didn't know in the play, the director has given him a name which is Marcus Aristobulus. That's why the whole, the catastrophe happened because of that. The point I'm trying to make, I didn't want to just say a funny story. The reason I'm saying is, very often, God calls us by the name He has written for you in the play. He is the director. We think we are still the kittunni, the Unni, and you're ready to go, and you're very sincere. But then God calls you. You are not Unni, you are Marcus Aristobulus. God has written a great role for you. He has given you a great name. And it is important for us to know that name. And then we realize when He calls us by name, then we know this is the calling. So I encourage you to go to God like Jabez did, like Caleb did. Find your real name. Don't live by the name the society has given you. Don't live by the name your parents have given you. And don't go by the nickname your colleagues and the church people, whoever is calling you. Find your true name. Let God reveal to you your true name. And there is, the only way to, I'm just going to say this in closing. There is this verse in the Bible, I think it is Isaiah 49:16. This is what it says, Isaiah 49:16. It says, "Behold, I have inscribed you on the palm of my hands." It's funny, one of my friends said, "Did you know God has a tattoo?" I said, "God has a tattoo?" He said, "Yeah, that's kind of what the scripture says." It's essentially, you can read it that way. Behold, I have tattooed you in the palm of my hands. Your name is written in the palm of my hands. See, when do you write something in the palm of your hands? That is your top priority, right? If you look at the palm of my hands, not now, very often you will see something like apple, avocado, or something like that. It's a grocery list which is given by Joanne. And I don't want to put it in my computer or smartphone because I forget, because I don't always check my phone. But if I write here, I know I will never forget, right? Because if I forget, I might be sleeping in the couch. So this is priority number one, right? This is top priority. We write something in our hand when it is the top priority. Top priority. We don't want to go it anywhere. So God has written, not just written, tattooed your hand on the palm of his hand because you are a top priority. So your name, to find your true name, we have to look at the palm of his hands. When you call on your prayer, there is a light that goes in his tattoo lights up. When you pray here, it's not like a lot of files where God has to browse through and all that. It is right there. The moment you call, your name will lit up because you are a top priority item for God. But to find that true name, you have to fall into his hand. Not holding his hands is not enough. You have to be in his hand. If you ever get into God's hand, then you will see your name. Only there you can see your name. Does that make sense? There is a verse that always challenged me, and I'm going to say that in closing. Psalms 139:5. Psalms 139:5. You have enclosed me behind and before, and laid your hand upon me. That's what the verse says. You have enclosed me behind and before, and laid your hand upon me. Have you ever felt, there is no nice way to say it, have you ever felt trapped by God? That's what Psalms 139:5 says. He has enclosed me before and behind, so I am stuck. I cannot move up, move there or here. Then he put his hand on me, so I can't even go anywhere. You feel trapped by God sometime? That's how you fall into God's hand. There are people, very often people say, Pastor Mathew, I am in such a position where I cannot move. God is not letting me move. I'm ready to do everything, and I'm ready to do this, and I'm ready to do that. But it is almost like God has surrounded me in a good way, but at the same time, my plans are not working. My prayers are not being answered. It is always almost like, hitting the brick wall. And then I say, pray. Why don't you pray? Oh, yeah, I pray, look above. All I see is darkness. I can't hear anything from God. It's darkness. Then I say, you know what? What you see is not darkness. It is the hand of God above you. Now, this is a good time to find your real name. When you feel that you are surrounded, you cannot go to the front or to the back, and when you look above, all you see darkness, then what you should do is to feel it. When you cannot see anything in the dark, you should try to feel it, right? Like you feel what is up there. When you feel it, it's like Braille letters, Braille language, where people who are blind can read. So you will see the tattoo in God's hand on top. And that's where your name is written. Your name is tattooed in Braille because it's a tattoo. It projects outside. And that's when you touch and feel and know what your true name is. I wish there was a better way to know that. I wish there was a register we can just go and look what my real name is. And unfortunately, there isn't. The only way to figure your true name is to fall into God's hand. It is not just holding his hands is not enough. To fall into God's hands and to be in the darkness and feel it out. What is that tattooed name? My name, which is written on his hand. And the moment you realize your name, you realize your destiny. It changes your life. It changes your calling. It changes your mission, and you will be empowered. And you won't be a Caleb anymore. You won't be an Unni anymore. anymore. You will be Marcus Aristobulus. You won't be a Caleb. You will be the lion. You will be the lion. And I hope and pray that we will take this seriously to figure out what is the name being called. Are we the sons of Nabas? Are we the daughters of Nabas? And can we understand and appreciate God's calling and God's dream that is for us and what he has destined for us? And that's when we as a church community is going to fulfill his calling for us in this place.